Hey guys, how are you? So just a quick story before I lead into this video. When I first got started with the Great Game of Business and we rolled it out at our agency, what really drew me to it maybe the most was the idea of this profit share or gain share bonus program that the employees could take advantage of. And if they helped us and helped the company be successful, they can have a stake in the outcome, as they say, and get paid a bonus based on a percentage of their salary, dependent on the profit, the amount of profit that we hit in any given quarter. So I thought that was really exciting. I was excited to roll that out, but I was a little confused and I didn't know how I'd put that into place. It sounded really complicated. Well, luckily for me, I found out that the Great Game of Business has a tool, an Excel sheet that basically helps you calculate a bonus plan above and beyond any threshold you need for the company's financial stability, and then they put it in tiers for you, and it's a pretty cool bonus program that they help you create. So today I decided to ask the master coach that I'm going to shadow. I'm going out to Indianapolis to shadow him in his newest launch of a client and enrolling them into the Great Game of Business. I'm going there next week to shadow him, and then it's the final step in being certified is I have to shadow this person. And so I asked him to come on today and to explain the bonus program and different bonus programs that he's created in the past, and just to talk about bonus plans, gain share, profit bonus programs that he's created for clients. And just a little bit about Kevin Walter. I got this from a couple notes from his bio here, just so that you see that he's qualified. He grew up in Chicago, and he grew up in his family's food business, restaurant. And back in '89, it evolved into Tasty Catering, and that business is still thriving today, thanks in large part, he says, to the Great Game of Business. Now he's a principal in several businesses. He lists about half a dozen different businesses that he's a principal owner in. And the successes of these companies have earned him a place in the UIC Chicago Area Entrepreneurial Hall of Fame. And then Tasty Catering, just a few of the awards that business has won, all by being managed with the Great Game of Business and with open book management. It's pretty extensive and pretty amazing how many different awards and achievements this catering company has had. 2010 Achievement in Catering Excellence, ACE Award winner. 2010 Governor's Sustainability Award winner. 2009 Better Business Bureau Torch Award winner for Marketplace Ethics. And 2008 Caterer of the Year, is the go-to caterer for Chicago business. Tasty Catering is winner. 2011 NICE Awards, Best Corporate Event under 25,000, Best Picnic, Best Corporate Event over 75,000, and Best NICE Team Event. The company has also been recognized as a 2010 Exceptional Workplace by Inc. magazine, and winning workplaces at Crane Chicago Business Best Place to Work 2011 and 2010. A Best Place to Work in Illinois for 5 consecutive years, 2011 through 2007, back to 2007. Is a Best and Brightest Winning Company 2010 and 2009. And a 2011 Daily Herald's Reader Choice Award for Best Caterer. So needless to say, mostly thanks to the Great Game of Business and running it with the open book management style of management. Without further ado, let's get into Kevin Walter and how to create a bonus program for your employees and for your company.
All right. Well, let's just jump right in. This is Brenda Brenda and I talked, I don't know, a month ago about this, explaining the gain share template to the clients. And I've done it, I don't know, 50, 60 times. So we just figured we'd set this up, and then as long as Nick and Terry were shadowing me coming up next week, figured we'd put us all together and do it all at once.
Right.
So I'm going to take you through. You guys act like you're owners of a business. Feel free to ask any questions at any time, but I'm going to take you through what I typically do with a client. The first step is define critical numbers. I typically say only one the first year that this kicks off, and I steer heavily towards profit, net profit, profit before tax, EBITDA, whatever that bottom line profit is on your P&L. To me, that's the simplest way to teach business. What makes money and generates cash? How can we save on expenses? How can we, what impact does sales increase have? All sorts of the cost of goods sold. To me, it's the simplest, okay? I've had a couple of organizations we just need sales, our overhead's under control. I hear that all the time about our overhead is under control. There, I typically tell the story of how our office supplies line owner dropped it from $3,500 a month at $6 million to $2,300 a month at $8.5 million over 3-4 years. 3 years at $1,200 a month, that adds up quickly. A lot of companies just say their overhead's under control. Their overhead, no, it's not. But I don't tell them that straight out. Then we establish the minimum performance. What's our threshold before we start sharing the over? Financial security of the company comes first because we got to keep our jobs. The bonus or the gain share is an added benefit, but we got to maintain our jobs. Then we look at the bonus pool. Is it meaningful? It should be 10 to 20% of total payroll. We'll get to more on that later. And how are we going to distribute it? Percent of salary equals shares by percentage of pool. To me, the simplest one is percent of salary. That way, if you got somebody who's in leadership or what have you, it's making $100,000, they get the same percent as somebody making $40,000 assembling parts on the front line. So it's an equal but unequal based on your job status responsibilities. I've had a couple of marketing companies, that kind of company, go equal shares across the board. Hey, that's okay in certain situations, but how do you determine somebody that comes in the 5th month of the year? Do they get 5/12 or 7/12 of it? Who knows? Determine the payout schedule. Of course, the great game, we like to do it quarterly. In certain circumstances, I've bent on that, mostly construction, because it's so hard with construction accounting to go to semi-annual. I try to steer away from annual at all costs. Okay, that's what people are used to. Companies that I've gone into that have had a bonus, I ask them if they're seasonal. Yeah, we really pick up 4th quarter, and 1st quarter is not the best. And I smile to myself and say, well, do you have an annual bonus? Yes. So this gives you 4 chances to sprint to the finish line. Establish a time for declaring and paying the bonus. It's critical that people know when it's coming. And that can revolve around cash flow. I had an accounting firm whose worst quarter was their 4th quarter, fiscal, and their best quarter was their 1st. So we changed the bonus plan to kick off on April 1. To end on April 1, because that's when they had the most cash coming in from Q1 tax returns. So we kept them on the same fiscal year, but just changed their bonus year to accommodate the cash flow a little better. Then it's up to us as coaches to stress test the plan. Is it good for the employees and the company? Is it reasonable? Is it achievable? Because this whole exercise is stupid to do if it's not reasonable or achievable. But it's got to protect the company as well. Plan documents. I've got probably 10, 12 examples pulled up I can show you later. But that's the who, what, where, when, how, and why the bonus gets paid out. And then we communicate and educate everyone on a plan and their path to achieving their stake in the outcome. That starts at the all-team launch and continues on after that. And then we celebrate and recognize the win. Theme it. One of the best celebrations ever was a rural Georgia hospital that was facing cuts and maybe even shutting down the hospital. They started the great game of business, and the first time they paid out bonus. Have you guys seen the video of that?
No.
All right. The CEO, CFO, and COO came in dressed as Blues Brothers with a briefcase chained to the CFO's hand, and they proceeded to do a Blues Brothers skit. And at the end, they opened the briefcase and handed out bonus checks. That'll never be forgotten. I steer away from trying to direct deposit things, although nowadays people really prefer that. But have something to hand them when it's bonus time, whether it's a direct deposit voucher or a check or something. Give them something physical. And then we use the plan to execute, follow the action, and keep score. All right, we're moving on to the next page. Any questions in here? Okay, threshold calculator. That's where I skip to next. These numbers up here are just to help you calculate your salaries, your wages. Has nothing to do with what's down here, okay? This company, they want to have $650,000 in profit before tax. Take out the taxes, add back depreciation if that's something that the company typically calculates. Hey, what are we going to invest in next year with our capital? Is there any change in AR? A lot of times this doesn't have much of a factor unless you're a company growing at maybe 20 or 25% or more, because then accounts receivable will be growing at 20, 25%. Will you have the cash? What's the accounts receivable, accounts payable? That's a calculation there. Change in inventory. Many companies don't calculate this, and that's okay because their inventory is pretty stable. A $10,000 inventory change on $650,000 in profit, that's not a big deal. Once again, this is for companies that are growing at 20, 25% because their inventory might be up 20, 25%. What principal do we have to pay on debt? Okay, that's got to come out of the profit. And then, hey, what is kind of investor return is needed or wanted by the ownership? And then really strongly recommend making sure they build up some cash, right? The one business pundit, I forget his name, but he says 3 to 6 months of cash reserves is always good to have. A lot of times we'll be working with companies that aren't that sophisticated. I worked with a meat slaughterhouse in eastern Pennsylvania in a town of 1,200 people. And they just had a 2.5% profit at the end of the year and gave half to the employees without thinking about taxes or savings or paying down debt or anything. All right, so then when you finish all these calculations, it comes up to the financial security threshold being $600,000. Any questions in here?
Yes. So change in AR, change in payables. So because I've got the situation you're talking about where I got a company growing. I mean, for example, their AR last year this time was $3.5 million. Today, I just got off the phone with them. It's $5.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do I put in a plus $2 million here, or do I put in a negative $2.5 million here?
Pretty sure it's negative. I haven't worked with this a ton where I had to put that in, but I'm pretty sure you just follow if it's in parentheses here, put it in parentheses.
Well, but also, I mean, it could have been reversed. I mean, they could be doing real well. I could have had a $1.5 million AR today, and so I'd still have the $2 million number, and now I got a reduction in AR versus an add to AR. I'm wondering how.
Then I would suggest putting it in a positive.
Yeah, because if, I mean, I've got yours up right here, so let me just make that a positive $10,000. Yeah, if I put in a positive $10,000, the financial security threshold jumps to 580 or goes to 580,000.
Right.
So I'm just thinking this through from a cash flow standpoint. Growth in AR is not growth in cash, right?
No, it's sucking cash. So it's definitely negative.
Sucking cash. So a growth in AR we're going to enter in as negative. A reduction in AR we'll enter in as positive.
Correct.
Okay. All right. That's
what else?
Hey Kevin, I have a question for you. The half that goes to the employees, the half that goes to the company in the gain share, won't that also be adding to the company's savings? Or yes. Not always? Okay.
Yes, but here we're looking at what do we need before we share $1.
Yep. But I'm just wondering, like, you do have to take into account when you're coming up with a savings number that you will also be taking in some savings or adding to your savings from half of the bonus share.
If we make bonus, yeah.
Oh, if we make bonus.
You don't count on that. This is the bare minimums needed.
Got it.
And they could just go to cash for operations and not go into savings. So I think it's the ability to build a small war chest is really what you're thinking. So you're going to kind of set it aside. And so the number, and Kevin, can you kind of explain how you start at the 650 PBT when you're setting aside the taxes that the owner's going to need? Because typically they're private companies, right?
Yeah.
That's going to come off the 650, right?
Yep.
Or you're going to have to get another 240. Like, what is it? How kind of explain to them how you started at 650 and ended at 600.
Yeah, we take off the taxes, depreciation is this is a positive. I don't know how all these formulas work to the T. I'll be frank with you, but we're adding back in 50 grand in depreciation. Brenda, I don't know.
I guess the way I kind of think about it is, and you guys can help me on, because that's what I wanted to have this discussion, because some of these numbers look funny to people as they're filling them in. So does it make sense to say, if you're shooting for 650,000, $240,000 is either going to come off that or you're right. So now you're down to 410.
Right.
You're going to add in your 50. So now you're at 460. From 460, you're going to take out 100. That puts you at 360. So that's where that 600 is kind of a wonky number. That's why I had these questions when I called you on this form.
Follow it along. Then we take out the 10,000, right? 350. Then we add that back in, 360. Then we take out 200 and 110. So this means to cover everything on this page, to cover all this stuff, we absolutely need this $600,000 in profit before we share $1.
Anything, because the 240, 100 pretty much nets down to you need the whole thing.
Yep. All right. Bonus worksheet time. Are we good on this one? What other questions? All right. Bonus worksheet. All right. On here, you can see these numbers, 3, 2, 5, 4. They all correspond with these numbers. Okay. So in this one, this company's payroll is 1.1 million, right? 450 and 650. This form accounts for paying payroll taxes on top of that, whether it's Social Security matching, all that kind of stuff. All right. The placeholder is 10%. That varies state to state, correct? Okay. But we're just using 10% for easy calculations. That's pretty close to what it might be. But the client can put in 8% or 12%, depending on if they're in California or not. So adding 10% on the 1.1 million gets us to 1.2 million. All right. So this is safeguarding that we're not paying out too much and that we still have that threshold of $600,000 after payout. Okay. Max cap of payout is 20%. I highly, strongly recommend to clients not to go 20 levels year one. Okay. Why? Because, hey, this company, we get to 600, 650. Hey, great. We're going to be in here somewhere. When you show people 20 levels, immediately they'll start calculating bonus on 20% of pay. And is $1 million realistic for this company, for your company? If it's not realistic, don't put it as a bonus level. Because then when they get to level 10, they'll be disappointed. I'd rather start out with 10 levels or less, max bonus the first year at level 10. Everybody's excited. Hey, next year we can add in a couple more levels, okay, or 5 more, or 10 more. But year one, I like to be a little on the safe side. Okay, So our total bonus pool at 20% of 1.21 million will be 242,000. Following me here? Okay. All right. So the plan is on the other page, 650,000, right? That was our plan here. Okay. 650,000. This has nothing to do with the calculations further down the page. Okay. This has a lot to do with the calculations down the page, the threshold. Okay. So now this company divided it up. They're not seasonal. They divided it up by 150, 150, 150, 150, adding up to 600 grand. Okay. You can adjust in here for seasonality. All right. You can go to 100 grand here, and you can go to 350 grand here. All right. It still ends up being 600 for the year. Okay. Let me undo that before we go on. So you can adjust this for seasonality. All right. The cumulative payout percentage, we put it in here, 10, 20, 30, 40, adding it up, cumulative 10, 30, 60, 100. All right. Now, does that all make sense so far? Okay. So remember, our payroll is 1.21 million after we add in the 10% tax on top of 1.1 million. All right, down here, this 624 for Q4 target year to date. Why is that higher than 600,000? Okay, because we're adding in, considering what it is after payout. That's a gain from 600 to 624. That's a gain of 24,200. Wow, look at that down there. Half goes to employees, or 12,100. Half stays in the company. The company after payout is above their financial security threshold of 600,000. Does that all make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So now you can, let's say this 650. This 650 puts us with a financial security threshold. This 650 puts us right in between level 3 and 4. All right. That's, we don't want to plan or budget a company to hit the bare minimum we need. We don't want to plan or budget to hit stuff that's really unrealistic. So you got a 5 level or a 7 level or a 10 level bonus structure. That plan should be in level 3 or 4. Best practice recommendations. Okay. So we budget to 650. Hey, we miss it by a little bit. We still could be in the bonus. Okay. We still could be at level 1, level 2. All right. We hit it. We're right around level 3 or close or somewhere in that area. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. This is following the early wins with level 1 or 2 if you got a 10 level bonus. The reasonable and achievable in levels 3, 4, 5, 6. And then, hey, how about a couple stretch goals? 7, 8, 9, 10. Something like that. Okay, so it's just a 20 level bonus, scaled down, early wins, reasonable, achievable, stretch.
Can I ask a quick question for how this is different from the way we used to do it? So just to make sure, so in between, let's say, level 1 and level 2, they don't have to wait to hit. They don't have to wait to hit the 648 to get the level 2. Do you pay incrementally in between level? Like we used to say any dollar over, you split it 50-50. But here, do you actually just get whatever level 1 is until you hit level 2? Now you get level 2, or do you still do the 50-50 on each dollar over?
You can do the 50-50 on each dollar over. I like to keep it simple. I like to keep it simple. Think about it this way, Brenda. You're $10,000 off a month before the end of the quarter of hitting the next level, and you can tell your team of 200 people, all we got to do is save, what is that, $50 a person?
Yeah.
All we got to do is find $50 a person over the next month, and we're at the next level.
Okay, so we are pretty much now saying it's a level jump and the next level jump to push. That's fine. I just wanted to clarify that too.
A client can do it the other way. I don't know. I like the push.
I like the push too.
Yeah. What else in here? All right. Now I'm going to show you some adaptations. Say a company's got a lot of debt, and I've had this. I had a company that was on covenants. In fact, it was Cherry's Industrial. I don't know if you're familiar with them from the conference, but they had bank covenants. They had serious debt. They were making money, right? 10, 12, 8, 10% profit, but they had to do their bank statements every month and get reviewed. All right. We wanted that debt out of the way. I think we started out at a 30-70. So the employee share was 30%. All right. That raised the bar of where we got to get to. Okay. To still have the company covered after the payout. Okay. We did it to 30% for the employees, 70% for the ownership to pay down debt. And the owner was nervous about that at launch. He said, I don't know how they're going to respond. I said, John, trust me, the people will rally around you. I know your people. At launch, after we showed this and we explained bank covenants, we explained how much debt, I think it was like a 10 or 12 or $14 million company. They had $2, $3, $4 million in debt. Once we explained all that and then showed the gain share, the shipping clerk raised his hand and said, all right, so if we pay down that debt earlier, we can get to a 50-50 share quicker. And the owner said, yes, that's right, and looked at me, and his eyes were like, oh my God, they're behind me. It was a pretty powerful moment, an exchange of a glance, because I was at the back of the room. All right. I had another company in Lubbock, Texas. They didn't have any debt. They'd been in business 10 years. The owner was debt averse. If something happened, he never wanted to be nervous about the money. They didn't buy new equipment until they had at least half the money for the thing, so they didn't get loaded with a lot of debt. He went 70-30, 70% for the employees. Didn't have any debt, and he wanted his guys that were working in the West Texas sun and West Texas cold out the tree cutting company. He wanted them to see checks bigger than they ever saw before in their lives. And he said, hey, if we get to that threshold, the company is covered. We're good. Okay. They went from 7.5% EBITDA to 22.5% in year one. and guys that were tree cutters making 13, 15, 16, 18 bucks an hour were getting checks for 5,000 and 6,000. It was pretty cool.
Isn't that?
Yeah. Casey Hildebrand from Hildebrand Tree Tech, if you ever want to talk to him at the conference. Good dude. All right. So now this bonus scoreboard salary, we see this 162, 650, that kind of thing, right? That 624 looks familiar, 12,000 looks familiar. That's 1% of pay, that bonus level. 1% of pay can sound like it's less than sales tax. Doesn't sound like much. So I always recommend throwing in these columns. That's how many days 1% of a 2,080-hour work year, full-time, 40 hours a week times 52. 2.6 additional days. That might mean something more than 1%. Or 20.8 hours. That might mean something more. Oh, I got an extra 20 hours of pay. All right? It's all the same damn thing. It's just a different jacket. So, hey, we get to level 5. All right? That's 13 days of pay, almost 2 weeks, or 104 hours. That can make a difference. So that's why this is on here, to give those kind of ideas to people. Questions? All right. Once again, a bonus scoreboard tracker. Hey, we get here. That's what that level is here. That, these don't mean much other than giving the clients a little extra ways to display it to their employees. All right. This bucket plan, I've never used it that I know of. I think I did, but I've never used this sheet on this template. I got a feeling this is where you rank employees into different buckets, and the top bucket gets 9%, the middle bucket gets 5%, and the bottom bucket gets 0. All right? I don't like it. I like a little bit of communism when it comes to the gain share. Everybody gets the same percentage. It just could be different because of their pay rate. All right, payout calculator. This is a good one, all right? This I recommend for every client to make available to their employees. in an Excel spreadsheet separate from this whole bonus worksheet. Cut and paste this somewhere else. That way they can put in their wages, they can put in their projected level of bonus, and they can see what it means in dollars. Okay? So I just put in $100,000 here because it's easy math. We're on pace for 5% net profit. That's what this sheet uses for bonus payouts. We're on pace for level 5 or 5% of pay. Okay? 5% of 100 grand is $5,000. This is an annualized bonus paid quarterly. So if we ended the year at 5% of pay and everybody would get, or anybody making 100 grand would get 5 grand. Q1, we get 10% of that, or $500. All right. Hey, we got a little slip back in Q2. We didn't perform as well as we thought. We ended Q2 at 3%. 3% of 100,000 is 3,000. Now 30% of that's due. 30% of 3,000 is 900. We already got that 500 from Q1, so now 400's due. Following on to Q3, 5%. We had a good Q3 and bounced back. 5% of 100,000 is 5,000. 60% is now due. 60% of that 5,000 is 3 grand. Less than 900 we already received leaves 2,100. Okay. Hey, we had a great fourth quarter. 7%. 7% of 100,000 is 7,000. 100% of that's due, or 7,000. We already paid out the 3 grand, so 4,000's due. Does that make sense to everybody?
Do you ever have them do up something that says, so they have examples, like for somebody who makes, say, 45, somebody who makes, just so people have like, here's what Sally might earn, or just post this somewhere that everybody can play with it themselves?
I recommend that they send this sheet out to every employee. I mean, they cut and paste that. They don't need to see all this stuff, but they get this in a totally separate Excel file and make it available to everybody in the company. Does that answer that, Brenda?
Yeah, I think that's great to do that. Most people should be able to get in and plug in a number, so I love it.
Another suggestion I make for launch is, at launch, you don't want to use the lowest person's salary. You don't want to use the highest. The median, people will say, well, how come but in an example, I'll put on a slide for every $10,000 in wages you make, this is how much it would be.
That's a great point.
That's great.
That way somebody making 45,000 can multiply it times 4.5. Somebody making 90,000 can multiply it times 9. That way you're not insulting anybody, or nobody's sitting there saying, well, how come I only make 40,000? That slide says 60,000.
That's a great idea.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Questions on this? Typically what comes up here is, what if we have a bad quarter? Okay. Most companies don't. I've seen it happen once with Summit Cove. They're a property management company in Colorado, up in the mountains, ski resort. Their fiscal year ended, I think, June, and they paid out bonus in Qs 1, 2, and 3, and then Q4 hit and COVID hit 2020, and they shut the mountain down in March 8th, March 6th, and March and April are 2 of their best months. So they ended up negative for the bonus for the year. All right, that's an extreme example. That's a black swan type event. But if you're concerned about that, I'll show you some adaptations later. But go 10%, 10%, 20%, and 60% at the end. You can play with these percentages to fit your cash flow, to fit your business cycle. Okay, it doesn't have to be 10, 20, 30, 40. That's the recommended. It works for manufacturing or any company that's pretty steady throughout the year without many bumps or valleys. Okay, but you can change it 10, 10, 10, and 70. But I strongly recommend paying out as much as you can along the way, because it incents people to do better each quarter. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to get off this one for now, if no further questions. Now, I'm going to start with the most complicated one I ever did first. This company, I don't know, they were 200 million, big company. They make exterior cladding, window panels and wall panels for skyscrapers. They've got a workshop, I shouldn't call it, where they got a factory where they make it, and then they go all over the Midwest and install them, okay? They had paid out bonus before, every year, but it was pretty much owner's discretion. They wanted to switch to this without everybody getting what they got last year at level 1, but a chance at the over with more levels. So the owner went through all, 400 employees, what they got paid out last year, and he did this whole spreadsheet and figured it all out. So he went with 6 different tiers of bonus, okay? And he classified all his employees in one of these 6 tiers, okay? Max, at level 1, I shouldn't say level 1, at tier 1, those are the first-year factory workers, first-year admins, all the rookies in the company. Their max was 10%. Then you move up, and you move up, and you move up. And up here you're in project managers and superintendents and that kind of thing. Up here you're at your leadership level. Okay? So he did a 6-tier bonus system. And everybody in the company was educated on which tier they fit in and what they had to do to get to the next tier. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So, your level 1 bonus went up 1% a level, up to level 10. I think we only went 10 levels. Your level 2 went up to 12.5, and so on. So he did this, and everybody at level 1 in the company was within hundreds of dollars of where they what their bonus was last year, and it worked for him. It was a lot of work on his part, but damn, he came up with a good one. All right, he went with a 45% goes to employees. Okay, so that's an extreme example of adapting this to fit what was last year's bonus. One of the key components of this is we don't want to design a bonus plan where they get less than last year. They'll say, this is BS, why can't we go back to the old way? All right.
Can I ask a question on that real quick? Can you just...
Yes.
So if I understand it right, the level 1 people are like your frontline workers. The level 6 people were like your higher level staff.
Right.
The higher paid staff could earn a max of 30% of pay, but the frontline workers could only earn a max of 10% of pay.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that send a weird message to people?
It was in construction, Brenda, which the frontline workers are used to nothing.
It didn't matter.
And the level 6 are used to getting a pretty good slice. So these level 6 at 30% of pay max, their floor, what was their floor? Their floor was 3%. And that's about what they got the previous year, but now they had a chance at the over.
Got it.
So is it fair? Is it fair in my mind in the company I ran? No. But in this company, so nobody was going backwards and everybody had a shot at the over, it worked.
Because they had already had something before. Makes sense. Correct. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Brenda, a lot of my clients too, those hourly employees, they're getting overtime, double time, and the salaried guys and gals, they don't get that, and they still have to put in 70 hours as well. So
yep, we got that more on that coming up, Terry. We got 19 minutes left, and I got like 6 examples to show you that I think will be helpful.
Okay.
All right, this one. I like this one because it was definitely unique. They only paid out, and this is a plan conditions document. This is what I insist on for every company, the who, what, where, when, how, why of everything. All right, here's the kicker. The bonus level paid for Q1, 2, and 3 will not exceed level 5, even if they're at level 10. And I said, why is that in there? This was Vital Farms, pasture-raised chickens that lay eggs. He said, because if we're knocking it out of the park the first 3 quarters, we could run out of eggs in the fourth quarter because it takes 6 months from the time we give the chicken farmers the pullets till they start dropping eggs. We could run out of eggs and go backwards severely. And I thought that was pretty unique. Now, they were tracking a level 8, 9, 10 all year, and they managed to have enough eggs in the Q4. They ended up maxing out bonus in Q4. So after Q4, they paid the first 3 quarters the extra 5 levels, and they paid out the Q4 level 10. So I thought that was an interesting twist. Does that make sense?
Kind of like a holdback.
Yep, to make sure we didn't lose 10 million in Q4. All right, so that's that one. Let me get this out of the way. All right, more examples. This one. I like this one. This was unique. This is a party rental company out in the Carolinas. Once again, how you qualify based on year-to-date earnings. Okay, overtime earnings, you got to be careful. In California, since this is considered a production-based bonus plan, you got to pay on overtime or else you can get sued. So each state is different on whether or not you can pay on overtime or not pay on overtime. I don't like to pay on overtime because, like Terry was just saying, you know, salaried people don't get overtime. Other people do. All right. This was interesting in that 2 things. They adjusted it for seasonality. You can see Q1 and Q1 here. They wanted a 22% threshold for bonus. Okay, that was their busiest quarter of the year. Q2, absolutely dead. They went from 22% profit down to 9. Okay, Q3 was their second best quarter, went from 9 to 17. The Q4 was okay. It went from 17 to 14. They just wanted to end the year at 14%, and this was the roadmap to get them there. Okay. Does that make sense how they adjusted for seasonality? Yes?
Yes, it's basically going to come off the plan, right? Whatever their plan is.
Yep.
The plan's going to have that built in.
This one, I fought this tooth and nail. They hit these profit levels. The frontline people, this is a cement construction company, built curbs and sidewalks and stuff. They get half, and they get 3 times that. Half, 3 times, half, 3 times. I did not like this. He said, no, the most key important people in my company are those foremen and superintendents and the estimators. He says, that's what drives the bus. He said, these frontline guys, yeah, they can get motivated, but they'll leave the company in a heartbeat to go down the road. I fought a tooth and nail, but I wanted to show you, okay, this is what he wanted. You know, your frontline laborer is pouring the cement, get a half, while the guy who's standing behind him with a whip gets 1.5%. Okay, I didn't like it, but that's what the client wanted. All right, done with that one. This one. This is a company that wanted 20 levels. And look, level 1 was 0.3% of your salary for the year. That's like peanuts, right? It was 0.3% is a $100,000 worker getting $300. All right, and they went up to 5%. The foe thought he was smarter than the average bear. Hey, it all worked out in the end. They ended up hitting like 6%. They paid out max bonus. Go ahead.
I was just thinking that it's not much incentive from one level to the next if you're just jumping up like a 0.2% pay bonus.
I believe. Yep, I believe this has been changed since then. And look at all the qualifications for who qualify. I like the idea that from day one you're qualified for the bonus. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that example because, you know, at the end of the day, we have to do what the client wants. I wanted to show you one that was a simple 10 levels. All right, simple 10 levels. Boom, 1 page, done. Okay, this guy, he wanted to penalize people and take away bonus. His lead technicians, the key guys in his company, if they didn't meet 80% completion on each and every one in all caps of the weekly tasks, deposit checks, sign-off sheets, zero touch. Come on. I said, don't do a penalty. I said, how about you do an over for the people who do that? So it worked. He ended up giving the people 2 times. If they did this all year long and were great and with all their paperwork and other stuff, then they get double bonus. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. I wanted to show you this one for this one too. He had a salesperson that was 100% commission. And this is based on wages. We baked them into the bonus plan as if they were a $40,000 a year equivalent. Okay, so when they get 1, 2, 3, 5% of pay, it's 5% of this 40 grand. Okay, for this one, I pulled it up just because it was simple, right? It's only 5 levels, and it starts at 2%, you know, and 3.5%. Okay, it was just nice and simple, 1 page. All right. What else I got? Oh, this one I pulled up because it was mid-year. So, hey, we did 30% payout at the end of Q3 and 70% at the end of Q4. Okay, but we went retro to the beginning of the year. Does this make sense? Okay. If I ever own another company, it's going to be mechanical blinds for commercial people. 15.65% was his threshold for profit. 20% profit. Oh my goodness. But the reason he wanted the great game is because the company was outgrowing him command and control. All right. One more, and this is from Skolton. This is what he did, a tab. So that each employee could calculate forecasted quarterly wage, year-end calculation, bonus level achieved, how much the bonus level percentage was. Okay, so this helped each person in the company forecast their own bonus, which was a real motivator.
Did he try to have the mid-level managers sit down with people and fill that out together? Was that one of the things he had said?
Yes. Yes.
So they did a touch base?
Yep. All right, my camera's back on.
Here you are.
Yeah, I wasn't watching the chat. Sorry, Terry.
That's all right. We were trying to find a way to get your attention.
All right, now I can't see you because I turned off your webcams to try to help.
You're fine now. That was quite some time ago that I sent those chats out.
All right. What questions, what can I help you with now?
Just to clarify, read the owner, try and steer them towards reasonable and equitable, fight their fear, would you say, and simpler is better?
Yes. Simple is always better. All right. As long as we got time, because we did okay. Go ahead. You ask the question, whoever's going to ask.
Well, no, I was going to tell you that this was very helpful for me. So I kind of understand the principle, if you will. All my clients will calculate a little different. I can already tell you, but we get the principle, and that's what's needed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were amazing. So much information in such a short period of time. It was awesome.
I've done this once, Linda. Yeah, I've done it once or twice, and I think you can tell. All right. As long as we have time, I'm going to take you through this real quick. This is what I send to the clients to have them fill out certain slides. I tell them what slides to fill out. But this is part of the afternoon when I launch day. What's our critical number? Explain it, okay? Go through last year for how many every dollar revenue, how much is profit before tax, and he guesses like 30 cents, 20 cents, 18 cents, and when they find out, they're shocked. Then I take them through this exercise so they know Walmart makes 3 cents on a dollar and the jaws are agape. Okay, on this one, we're just trying to show that gain share won't be impossible. They don't have to be superheroes to hit it. So, hey, this company's 7.7, 7.2, 6. Okay, we've had losses, but we had a gain in there, and here's the industry standards. Nobody likes to be on a losing team nobody likes to be less than average. So odds are this company might have started the gain share at, I don't know, 3%. That's a win here. Okay. Then we go through a scoreboard explanation. I take them through, I get the crowd fired up. I'm making them do claps and hollers and standing ovations. And then somebody explains the scoreboard. Then we get into the gain share. Okay. I play the Christmas vacation video, explain entitlement, discretionary lottery. And then we go into the gain share table. We hand out the plan document to everybody in the room so they're looking at it, and then we go through the table. Okay, talk about the payouts. All right, here's that one I said for every 10 grand in wages. Okay, if you got a 5% payout, okay. And then by quarter, I don't use all of these for every implementation. I give the client options for what they think their people can handle. All right, so odds are we might not even use this one. I've found that this is typically really, really important to try to connect the dots to how every job position in that room can impact what goes in their pocket. Okay, many examples follow. Try to tie it to your company. Try to tie it to your company and everyone in it. Increase in revenue. Current revenue 2.2. All right, we increase annual revenue by 240,000. Expenses stay the same. 4% drop in expense. Half goes in. 48,000. It's about $2,000 each. If we can squeeze out 240 grand more in revenue. All right, staying within scope of work for $100 over at 5% target, 2,000. So these are just examples of how everybody can put money in their pocket. All right, this one was AR was a big thing to them. Where does the profit go? Revenue increases. Once again, staying within scope of work. This owner was construction. He hated when they moved dirt twice.
Yes.
Okay, so they were home builders. Every time they moved dirt, it was $2,000, cost $28 a person out of their pockets. This one was when the lumber was going up. $18 in their pockets. Upselling. All right, 5,000 more upsell and options in one home. Now they built 200-300 homes a year. It's $2,300 in each person's pocket. And this one was great. One more sale in a month of a home, 18,000 in gain share pool, or about $848 to each staff member. That's pretty powerful.
Fantastic. So you use this on the all-team launch day?
Yes, that's how I close the day.
Awesome.
Connecting the dots to how they can impact their bonus. So it's not like something manna from heaven.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fantastic. Can you share any of what you just shared with us, or
I got a list. I got a list, Bren. I'm going to send out at some point.
You're the bomb. I appreciate it.
All right. If this spreadsheet is too complicated for an owner, or they get their head wrapped up in it, typically I schedule one to go over the spreadsheet just like I did today. Then I tell them to go plug and play with your numbers. Then get twisted in knots and come back to me and we can work it out. Then go fix it and come back, and that's the final presentation. So usually it takes 3 sessions with the owner or finance people aside from the regular. Okay. If they get twisted up in knots, I tell them, take out a napkin, go get a cocktail napkin and write it down. What do you want to make a profit? What's your obligations? When do you want to start sharing, right? Sometimes that spreadsheet really complicates people. I had one guy who made 3% profit in an industry where 15% was best in class and 20% was world class. The owner was fighting me saying, world class is 15%. He'd done 3% in profit the year before. He was on pace for 6% this year. I had to nail him down and say, what's a win?
Mm-hmm.
Well, 15% is best in class. You're not going to be best in class this year, so shove it. If you end the year at 6%, that'll be a win. Yes.
Right.
So we made the bonus threshold 6%. 1% of salary to everybody in the company equaled what he did in discretionary bonus the next year. So we pitched it as do-it-yourself bonus. Design your own.